Yo, what's up everybody? Jumpin' here, and today I'm going to be showing off my extremely overpowered boss killer build in Back for Blood. Now, I know most people when they see that, they're going to think this is some type of like sniper build, but it is not. It is a frag grenade build. Now, frag grenades are pretty underused. Most people don't bother with them. They like to use pipe bombs, even like mollies. But the frag grenades are really good, especially at doing high damage versus single targets. So with this build, you can easily take out bosses with 2 grenades, no problem. Right there, I took out that hag with just 1 grenade, which actually kind of surprised me. All the gameplay you're watching here is on veteran difficulty, so I want to pretty much point that out. You'll see it right here. I accidentally shoot my teammate, so it gives me the little prompt not to shoot my teammates because friendly fire is on. But yeah, this build is crazy. Now, one thing about this build as well is that I have spec'd it so that it can do really great gun damage as well. So you kind of have 2 choices when it comes to constructing this deck. Either you can front load it with all of the grenade cards, that way if you get a boss early on, which sometimes with bad RNG you'll get like multiple bosses early on. If that happens, that can be really frustrating if you don't have the right cards, because once you have some of the cards, you can pretty much take them out no problem. But once you have all the cards, you will just start to do insane damage where you can just start 2-shotting them no problem, especially if you can get lucky with the upgrades as you're playing through. Now, the first clip that I showed where I was throwing 3 grenades and I didn't even kill that breaker with 3 grenades, that was when I didn't have all my cards, because like I said, what I like to do is actually front load the deck with gun cards. I think that's more useful early on because you want to be able to deal with the mutations and actually do like good gun damage. And when you are playing through, a lot of times a lot of bosses will spawn more at the end. There are guaranteed bosses that will spawn in Act 2. They all spawn at the end. And there's also some guaranteed bosses that will spawn in Act 1 and also Act 3 at the end. So I kind of think going for all of the grenade cards is better more in the middle than it is like early on. I'd rather get some gun damage early on. Now, me and my friends, we were playing through Act 1 and Act 2. All the gameplay pretty much are from those 2 acts, and it was just 2 runs that we were doing, and I was just recording it just for showing off this build. But one of my friends is playing a support build, the other one is playing a melee build, and admittedly, the melee build, if you have like a strong weapon like the fire axe, you can pretty much easily deal with things like breakers and even hags. Hags can be annoying, but they can be dealt with the melee build. But the one boss that is just so annoying if you are a melee build is the ogre. And you're about to see me like destroy an ogre here, because they are like pretty much impossible to hit with the melee build and you have to rely on shooting them. But if you have this build on the team, you don't have to worry about it at all, because this build is going to destroy ogres like easily with 2 grenades. And another thing too is that this build is extremely good at dealing with certain annoying enemies. And I was showing it earlier because there was one clip there where there was no bosses. It was just kind of general gameplay. But the annoying enemies that I like to chuck the frag grenades at is actually, if there's ever snitches, there are some levels where the snitches are guaranteed to go off. But in general, the frag grenades should be able to kill them and not set them off. And that's extremely useful. That way you don't have to worry about the stupid hordes that will come. So that's really nice. Also, tall boys. Tall boys can be so annoying. They have so much health. This build is awesome at just taking them out if you want to deal with them. And another thing too is that as you're playing through, you're going to have more and more frags. Once you get the cards, you're going to have up to 6. And if you get lucky and you get some offensive slot upgrades, you can have like up to 9 in a run. So once you have that many frags, you can pretty much use them anytime you feel like you want to against tall boys or just anything that's annoying. Another nice thing about frags is that you can actually chuck them at birds. So if you ever have like a group of birds that is in your way and you feel like someone's going to accidentally shoot those birds, you can chuck a frag at it and you'll kill every bird and you don't have to worry about it getting set off. So the frag grenades have a lot of nice uses to them. But the main thing is that the amount of damage you can do to bosses is just insane. Alrighty, so that's going to do it for the gameplay. Now I'm going to go over this build with you and tell you everything that you're going to want to know. Now the first thing I want to talk about is which cleaner should you actually choose for this. In my opinion, it's definitely Hoffman. I think he's the MVP of this build because mainly he gets the +1 offensive inventory that gets you the extra frag grenade. Also, for any gun build, he's extremely good because when you get kills, you have a chance to spawn ammo. That's extremely useful for yourself and for your entire team, especially if you're playing with a full group. Hoffman is awesome. He's got the personality to back it up as well. I love Hoffman. Now, technically, though, you could really play whoever you want because almost everything you get from this build is going to mainly come from the cards. So if you wanted to play like Walker or something like that, Walker gets a little bit more damage, so it is an option. But I personally think Hoffman is definitely the best for this build. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the deck. And the first thing I want to say is that what's really awesome about this deck is that if you want to unlock it, you mainly just have to go down the top supply line. Almost every single card in this deck will come from the top supply line. So it's not like the melee deck where you literally have to go down every single supply line, and that's how you find all the best cards. Almost every card here will come from that top supply line, so keep that in mind. Now, the first card is down in front. If you're playing on Veteran, you definitely want to have this on because when you crouch, you don't take any friendly fire damage and you can't dish it out. This is really important with the grenades because even if you're not shooting your allies, if you're playing with like a melee build, the melee build is going to be in front of you a lot, so normally it's a good idea to have this on. Plus, the melee build can accidentally hit you sometimes, so it's just a nice idea to have this on. But if you're going to be chucking grenades at any point, if your teammates are next to them and you are not crouching, you will be doing a lot of friendly fire to them. So this is definitely a must. And I always go for this first just to get it out the way. I have it, I can crouch, and pretty much not care at that point. Glass Cannon. Now, this is high risk and high reward. Now, if you feel like you cannot manage this because you're dying too much, you can go ahead and move this down on the list or you just take it out completely. I have no problem using this card. I really don't have a problem dying. So the damage increase is extremely good. And if you remember what I said, I like to front load this deck with some gun damage cards first, and then in the middle I start to go for all the grenade cards. Because the way I look at it is I want to do good damage to the zombies and to the mutations, and then later on I'll start to do the amazing damage to the bosses. And if I do grab a couple of the damage cards for the grenades, then I can actually do some really great damage to the bosses fairly early on as well. But Glass Cannon actually should affect the grenade damage. I'm not 100% on this, but I'm pretty sure when it's just general 25% damage, that affects everything. Grenades, your gun, it does not matter. Even like melee, I'm pretty sure it affects everything. So I really love that card a lot. Silver Bullets, there are other cards that do the same thing, but this is the best one. The negative effect, I don't even ever really notice it, but you get 10% bullet damage, 150% bullet penetration, so that's just awesome. There's really not much else to say about it. Tactical Vest, this is for assault rifles. It gives you more ammo. It gives you damage for assault rifles and LMGs. I do like using those weapons, especially the ranch rifle. To be honest with you, I think the ranch rifle is probably my favorite gun in the entire game. But if you want to use something else like shotguns or SMGs, you can just swap this card out with the card that will give you more ammo for those weapons and give you that little bit of damage. One of my favorite cards in the entire game is Chemical Courage. I love this card. Now, one of the main reasons is because this gives you a damage buff of 25% for 60 seconds. That is the longest buff in the entire game. And what's really nice is that one of the things that's underutilized, just like frag grenades, is pain meds. People do not pick them up, and you see them all the time in supply crates. So when you have this card, you can just pick up some pain meds, pop them, and then now you're going to have a damage buff for 60 seconds. And then eventually you'll find some more pain meds, and if you need to in an emergency, you can pop some pain meds. If you just need more damage because of mutation or something like that, you can use pain meds. I really love this card a lot, and I definitely think that this is one of the best cards in the entire game, to be honest. Next up, I have Double Grenade Pouch and Surplus Pouches. Now, Surplus Pouches is nice, especially if you feel like your teammates will need that extra offensive inventory. The problem with this card, and I kind of tend to wait on it a little bit, because it gives you that minus 10% health. Now, because we're using Glass Cannon, that's a minus 40% health. That's quite a bit, so you have to keep that in mind. But there are times when I know that I want to give my teammates the extra offensive slot because maybe I want everybody to buy razor wire for some reason. And we can all buy it and we can place it down for like certain missions and stuff. So this is definitely a really nice card. This one will lower your damage. It's not a big deal, only 10%, but you get 2 extra offensive inventory. Now, it's kind of up to you. Do you want to grab some damage first, or do you want to get more grenades first? Now, if you have bosses, or at least you know bosses are coming, then you definitely want to get the damage as early as possible. But if you don't have to worry about the bosses right away, I do think getting more grenades is nice because then you can use them on annoying enemies like the tall boys. Those are definitely, in my opinion, the most annoying mutations that have so much health they can really cause a lot of havoc. So I will just chuck grenades at them a lot. If there's a boss on the level though, I'll try to save some of my grenades, especially early on when I don't have all my cards, because I want to do as much damage to the boss as possible. But the first damage card to definitely get is Bomb Squad. This card is awesome, 100% explosion damage, so it will affect the grenade. You also get some explosion resistance, which is actually nice against Reekers who blow up, especially the exploders. So this will benefit you both ways. But the thing is that it's really weird. For some reason, when you have this card, all the explosions that you do will have like this electrical effect to them. If you were watching the gameplay, you might have seen it where I'm throwing grenades and there's like almost an EMP effect to it. I don't know why that is, but this card is what does that. Next up, we have Improvised Explosives, 75% accessory damage. The minus there for the swap speed, I don't care about that, but that's a lot of damage. Demolitions Expert, now this one's, the negative effect is kind of annoying because you get minus 15% ammo capacity, but 50% accessory damage is quite a bit. Now, it's up to you if you want to get Grenade Training after that, or you can get Confident Killer. I really like Confident Killer. I did not like this card for the longest time, but now I'm starting to like it. It's the same thing like Glass Cannon, because it's general damage, so technically it should affect their grenades. But if you just want to go all out and do as much damage with the grenades as possible, Grenade Training is the way to go. Now this card does not come from the top supply line. I believe it might come from the bottom, it might come from the middle. I kind of think it comes from the middle, because normally the cards that will give you temporary health will come from the middle supply line. But also, like, the cards that will give you things like movement speed generally come from the bottom supply line. So I don't really remember where this comes from. But this is a good card. I tend to get it really late. But what's really nice about this card is that when you start chucking grenades, you will get that temporary health. So you are pretty much becoming more tanky. And sometimes when you're chucking grenades, you might do a little damage to yourself. And this pretty much mitigates that damage that you take. So Fire in the Hole is definitely pretty nice. Canned Goods. I have this low, it gives you more health. I have the extra health just because I'm lowering my health. If I, at this point, have Glass Cannon and I also have surplus pouches, I have that minus 40%. So having some extra health is nice. This is the best one. You minus your stamina, but it's really not a big deal. And then finally, Grenade Pouch. This is pretty much a late card. Sometimes I grab it a little bit early if I just want more grenades, but normally it's kind of overkill. If you're going through a run, there's a good chance you're going to get some offensive slot increases through just the upgrade system. So if you have those and you have like 7 grenades or 8 grenades, you don't need to worry about trying to get 9. So you can kind of just skip this card entirely at that point. But that's going to pretty much do it for this deck. I love this deck. It's really good, like with weapons and guns, and that's really nice. But the main thing, of course, is that this is a boss killer build. You have your grenades so that you can take out the bosses pretty much with 2 grenades. No problem on veteran mode. On rookie, it's the same thing. You do insane damage. And you also do great damage with your guns. It's really useful as well when you use frag grenades for things like the snitches. You can normally kill them without setting them off. You can take out birds and not set them off. You can take out annoying enemies like the tall boys. And everybody on your team is going to love you for that, because sometimes those tall boys can just be super frustrating. Alrighty, well, I really do hope that you have enjoyed this video and that it has helped. If it has, will you please like the video for me? Be sure to subscribe for future videos, and if you do, make sure to click the bell. That way you can stay notified. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace!